Hey guys, welcome to Peck Wood YouTube channel, and what we had today is an epoxy leak. And we have a live edge hackberry slab that we had a void here, open-ended void, secured with tuck tape. I thought pretty well, but not good enough apparently. And we have these holes with tuck tape on the bottom side, so they weren't supposed to leak, but they did. And what we found the next day when we came to look at it was just leaking out, and this is 2 days later after it's cured. It lost about half the epoxy, and I saw it about 30 minutes after it started leaking. I tried to do that caulk dam. I tried to scrape it up, but it was still wet, but it was too late. We have a piece of plywood in between the hackberry and the bench, so that did make it easier to clean up because we could just sacrifice that. And you see this paint stir stick that I'm trying to pry up. It's really stuck. This epoxy is solid stuff. So we're going to use acetone to try to clean it up, make it easier, and acetone will try to loosen up the epoxy. And so with acetone, it's really strong, so you want to wear a respirator and gloves. And if you noticed, I was not wearing gloves because I'm an idiot, but I smartened up fast. And so we're using this syringe to try to distribute this acetone to try to get it in between the plywood and the workbench is the idea here, because that's our first goal, is try to remove the plywood from the workbench without harming the hackberry. And we're going to be using a heat gun as well, which is supposed to soften up and make it more malleable, the epoxy that is. So we're using a chisel to try to get it up, and what I found is the heat gun, if you can reach the epoxy, you don't even need the acetone. A heat gun with the chisel, it'll start coming right up. It really softens it up. Now, there were areas underneath which you're gonna see that I couldn't really get to with a heat gun and direct chisel. So I start to try to get this chisel underneath the plywood and the workbench to try to pry up that plywood. And the idea here is to try to pry up the plywood so that we can get the syringe with acetone underneath there to try to loosen up the epoxy that's stuck in between the workbench and the plywood. And so I'm really trying to leverage this up. And you can also notice that in the process to the left of taking out the epoxy that we did see, I tore up some of the plywood. So I'm beating some of these chisels in, I'm working the heat gun in between, and I'm spraying some more acetone underneath the plywood and try to squirt it underneath. I'm also working on the right side to try to leverage that plywood off the workbench on that side as well. And now we're just gonna take a moment and listen to the shop. Here you go. Sorry to break the ambience, but I don't know why I'm holding my hand like that. Like, I don't know if I'm trying to tap into some Jedi powers to separate this hackberry or what, but it felt right, alright? So don't judge me. And we're going to switch sides here and try to pry up this side. Now I taped together some stir sticks just to get to the level that I wanted, and we're just trying to pry up one side here and continue to squirt acetone down in there to try to loose up the epoxy, and continue to pry, throw in some heat down there, see if that'll help. It's really just whatever we can do to try to get this thing out of there without hurting the hackberry, because our client still needs that. Also, if you haven't already, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It'll help me out in some way, and it'll also keep you up to date on my new videos, which I got some cool things in the works. And if you're curious on how this hackberry turned out, the next video is a complete build on this hackberry coffee table. So you'll see it from start to finish, how it turned out and everything. As we get back to this, you can see I'm still trying to pry it up. I got some melamine boards in there because I couldn't make the stir sticks tall enough, and I'm continuing to scrape up some acetone. And we're banging in there, and we're almost there. I can see it coming off. We got good height on it. So just grab it and try to rip it up. And of course, I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to hurt this hackberry still. We got it up, and it's just a mess. This was a beast to get off. So to get the top part off, I couldn't just pry it off because I didn't want to hurt the hackberry. So what I did is I built this router jig, and I'm just going to take this router sled with a router and a flattening bit that you can see here. This is a 2-inch diameter flattening bit. And I'm making 1/8 of an inch pass. It's really important that you don't do more than your bit can handle, or you're gonna have burnout and take chunks out and whatnot. So this is gonna have to take about, I think it was 3 passes we had to do. The first pass was really just to take out some of the plywood. The second pass was mainly plywood and some high parts of the actual hackberry. Now the plan is we can't make the hackberry too thin because, I mean, we don't want the table to break. This is going to be a coffee table still. So we're going to take out just probably a 1/16 of an inch of the top side of the hackberry, which is actually the bottom. And so the second pass is getting pretty much all the plywood, and some of the, you can see kind of the tuck tape is being smeared there. So we're taking out some of that as well. In the third pass, this is where we really clean it up, and we gotta be really careful because we also want to have a flat slab at the end of the day. So this is gonna be the bottom of the slab, so we gotta make sure it's flat. It doesn't have to be anything beautiful, but it still has to be, more importantly, flat. So we're going by really carefully and making sure that we have a flat slab and taking out the tuck tape, which is a unique way to remove the tuck tape. So guys, let me know if you have any questions about this or how it turned out. You like what you see, you got better solutions, or this helped you, or whatnot. And I'll make sure I'll reply to your comments. And that is how the bottom side now looks after the leak.